Hey traders, happy Friday. I hope you had a fabulous week. It sure did start out with a bang with SPX losing 140 points right out of the gate. Short week, but it sure didn't feel like it with all of that excitement. Wednesday got almost all of it. Well, I should say we got about half of it back. And then the last 2 days, Thursday and Friday, we've just kind of seen some snoozy action. Now, I think next week we're going to see the reverse of that. I think the week is going to start out very slow, choppy, sideways, not a whole lot of action, and then we'll get some more action into the last couple of days of the week. Let me tell you why. So on Wednesday, we have the next FOMC rate announcement. Usually when we go into that type of an announcement, we don't see a whole lot of movement. And then the day after is when we start seeing some actual movement in the market, more of some trending days. Not just that, but take a look at what happens after the bell on Wednesday. We get a lot of tech earnings. Okay, so I think it's going to be very slow and boring on Monday and Tuesday, and then we should get some action after that. So let's talk about some possible trades that you could make on SPX for those first couple of days. So I like the idea of opening up a butterfly for Tuesday on Monday, centered at 6,900. Here's the thing though, I would want price to be within 25 to 30 points of 6,900 in order to do that. Let's say we do actually get a lot of movement on Monday and we shoot up 50 points or we shoot down 50 points. Maybe not such a good idea. But if we're still within 25 to 30 points of 6,900, I think 6,900 makes a really good pausing point ahead of FOMC and their rate announcement on Wednesday. What I have found often happens is the day before that rate announcement, the price of SPX tends to settle at a really good neutral point. That way it can easily jump off of that point, up or down, either direction, depending on what that announcement is. Now, we kind of know what the announcement is going to be. It's going to be a pause, right? Let me show you the chances of that. 97% chance of a pause. And this thing is pretty much always right. In fact, I can't remember a time that it hasn't been right. And then if you take into account this Fed investigation that's happening right now, I think it's even less likely for Powell to say something that surprises all of us. Now, what traders are really going to be paying attention to is not the rate announcement itself, but what Powell says in the press conference afterwards. He's not going to give away any secrets. I can almost guarantee you that. But is he hawkish? Is he dovish when he's talking about the upcoming rate announcements? That's really what we're going to be paying attention to, and that will help guide direction of the overall market. All right. So 6,900, I think, is a great pausing point on Tuesday. So if you were to open up a butterfly on Monday for Tuesday's expiration centered at 6,900, make it as wide as you want. I think that's probably a good idea. Now, what could possibly happen after that rate announcement? Well, let me just change my indicators here really quick. All right, so what I want to point out is these green lines and these red lines. These are the weekly quant pivots. Now, if you're not familiar with quant pivots, what I want to point out is that these are not targets. They are guardrails. Price tends to stay within the first red line and the first green line during that period. Now, we don't know where those quant pivots for the week are going to be for next week. We won't know until the bell rings on Monday morning. But this is where it opened up last week, this white line right here. Presuming that it opens up above that, then this red line, the H1, and this green line, the L1, will also be higher, all right? So if you are in the Mastering the Trade room, I do post these quant pivot levels, the weekly levels, every single day. All you have to do is go into the notes section, click on JC's daily briefing, and then scroll down. I have his key levels that he likes to look at because he likes to look at these weekly levels too. And I put those levels in there. So it's okay that we don't know what they are right now. We'll know Monday morning. And as long as you are a member in the Mastering the Trade room, you can see those levels too. I also go over them in the small lot trading room. So if you're a member there, you can see them there. But just to reiterate, price stays within this range 70% of the time. Can absolutely leave that range. If it does, then we're going to look at the next levels, the H2 and the L2. And I definitely would expect price to stay within those ranges. So that's what we will look for after Wednesday, is can it stay within those ranges? But I'm not expecting a whole lot of movement until after we get that rate announcement and then earnings kicks off. Well, it's already kicked off, but when we get those big earnings that everybody's looking at, just as a reminder, we have Tesla, Meta, Microsoft, Lam Research, SanDisk, SoFi. Those are some big mamma jammas that everybody's going to have their eyes on. So, are there any trade setups? Let's go back to this chart right here. And I want to point out SanDisk first. All right, this one has had a fantastic run. It is above 3 ATR, has bullish monster Momo, and then it has earnings right over here on Thursday. Now, typically, I don't like to play anything into earnings, but what could happen afterwards? Let me give you one scenario. So I'm going to put some fibs on this chart. Should we get a pullback, what I would like to see, not that it'll happen, but if it does, then I could see a setup. If we can get a pullback right to this little 618 retracement at 386, rising daily 21 should come up to meet that. If we can get a pullback right into this area and it can stay there for a few days, maybe even build up some intraday squeezes, then I think it's good for another long. I have a hard time seeing this stock continue higher after earnings because it has been so incredibly strong. They're going to have to come out and say something really, really good if it's going to keep going. It could happen. The market loves to make a liar out of me, but I think that the potential that it goes lower is probably higher. Higher potential for lower. See if you can figure that one out. All right. Next thing that I want to look at is Walmart. This one has been on my list for quite a few days. It's had a great run, came back down to the daily 21 before it shot up to 3 ATR. Now, it doesn't have a daily squeeze. Did develop a 30-minute squeeze today, but over the weekend that could probably fizzle out. But if it could consolidate here just above the daily 21 for a couple of days, possibly develop some nice intraday squeezes, then I would love to trade it back up here take out this recent high at 121.62. And then buy some February in the money calls. So I'm definitely going to be watching for that in this coming week. Next thing that I want to look at is CVS with you. Now, we actually opened up a position today in the small lot trading room, and it was about an hour and a half before the close. So let's just say that CVS opens up right around this closing price on Monday. You could definitely join us in this trade. What we did is we bought the February 13th 82 calls. We paid $360 for them. And what I'm looking for is a move to 85 and then to 88. Might not get 88 by expiration. I'd really want to be out definitely, before earnings, which is on the 10th. But if I could be out a week before expiration, I'd be really, really happy. So these are my two targets, 85, 88. Now, let me show you why I love this stock so much. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so that you can kind of see this range that it's been trading in. It's just kind of had a great run in the last couple of quarters of 2025, and then it's just been consolidating really since, end of October. And it has really struggled to get above $81. Finally broke out above that level yesterday, kept going higher today on bullish momentum. But look at this. Look at this, you guys. Look at that beautiful daily squeeze with rising momentum. Also has a weekly squeeze. So man, if this puppy can get going before my expiration at February 13th and hit 85 and then 88, I think that could be a really, really good one. Definitely hoping that that turns out the way that I'm envisioning it to turn out. So definitely pay attention to those tickers going into next week. Remember, you don't have to do anything on Monday and Tuesday. If it's a boring day, close your computer. Nothing wrong with that. And then as for this weekend, look, we focus a lot on pre-market prep. A lot of us like to prep for the week ahead on Sunday. But what about a weekly review? I think that is just as important, if not more important. So I have a little homework for you if you're ready. Look, it's not going to be a big project, but what I want you to do is go through your trades from this past week. And I want you to write down the best decision that you made this week and why it was such a good decision. Now, I want you to notice I didn't say the best trade that you made, the best decision that you made. Sometimes the best decision that you can make is to do nothing at all. Or maybe the best decision that you made was to take a losing trade off early because it just didn't seem right to you, or take profit sooner than you had initially intended. Doesn't matter what it is, but I want you to write down the best decision that you made this week. That's going to help your brain to remember to make those good decisions again in the future. Then I want you to write down the worst decision that you made, because we want to try and avoid those things as well, right? So weekend review, I think, is just as important to a weekly prep. So it doesn't have to take a long time, but try to fit that into your schedule in between spending time with family and friends and relaxing. And if you're in one of those southern states that is facing this horrible storm that's coming in, I really, really hope that you stay warm and stay cozy. Hopefully you don't lose power. And thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you next week. Thanks so much.
Without simpler trading, I could not have financial independence.
This is one of the best investments I ever made in my life.
It's helping me find consistency. It's one of the things that won me